Alright, so I think this is going to be the last uncompetitive moveset guide for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and it's mostly just the Pokemon that only have one moveset that's pretty much outclassed by another Pokemon, or just isn't good to begin with. I know it goes against what this channel is about, that the Pokemon side of things started with bringing out the OP strength of every Pokemon, but unfortunately, power creep has just made that harder and harder, and a lot of new Pokemon just have weird theming or weird handicaps for their strength that make them pretty much impossible to use, especially when there's Pokemon running around like Dondozo, Golden Go, Garganasalt, and also just other crazy Pokemon from other generations. Why use a tank that isn't Toxapex power? And another part of it is trying to make Pokemon that people want to use viable, but they just don't feel like the Pokemon has any strength whatsoever. Spidops, this thing is just a complete abomination. It's horribly designed, it's not usable at all, and it just really feels very out of place in Pokemon. This is not a Pokemon to me. It just should have never existed, so really I don't have motivation to like try to come up with a moveset to make it usable for someone that might like this thing. And then it also is just like the worst fully evolved Pokemon we've seen maybe ever, if not since like generation 1 or 2, when there was no real like idea or thought behind making deliberately powerful Pokemon. So for completionist's sake, I'm going to talk about all the Generation 9 Pokemon, and we're starting this part of the mini-series with Wugtrio. I can find absolutely no reason for Wugtrio's existence. It's just a worse Dugtrio in every way. It doesn't have a stab move as powerful as the Earthquake, it can't trap in, it doesn't have Fissure, so there's no extra like little craziness for breaking down a Pokemon, because that's one of the most fun things you can do with the Dugtrio. Dugtrio is really fun because you get to two-shot Pokemon that are slower than 120 speed with the Earthquake Focus Sash, and then you get to swing a 30% chance you KO them on a Fissure, and then you get to swing again. Also with Sucker Punch, you can actually have some really good revenge scenarios. There's also like a really fast sweeping Pokemon also trying to go for some kind of like Focus Sash cheese and they survive on 1 health. Well, then you just Sucker Punch them if they don't have any priority themselves. But you can still trade because like Focus Sash and stuff, and then you get a 2-hit KO, and then you get +1. So like Dugtrio is a really cool, honest, and simple 1+ Pokemon. Now that's not really too great these days with all the power creep, but it's better than anything Wugtrio can do with a worse ability. They have to make contact to activate the GUI, but then you're pretty much just getting a 2-hit KO anyways, unless it's a contacting move when you're on 1 hit points with your Focus Sash, to then maybe get the opportunity to like outspeed the Pokemon afterwards. So like a chance to get something follow up the sacrifice, and then just less stab damage with the water typing because you don't have access to the Earthquake. You have the same stats, not that great of a moveset, so the most you get is 10% less damage and a chance to miss on the triple dive compared to the Earthquake. It's just awful, and the Pokemon itself, like the whole Wiglet, Wugtrio, it's just an abomination that didn't need to exist. This Pokemon's existence does nothing for Pokemon. It's a complete waste. Same thing for Scovillain. If I never have to acknowledge this thing's existence ever again, my life is better off. Spicy Extract does nothing as like a signature move. Chlorophyll, sure, there's some kind of strategy here, but I mean, we've seen this archetype before. 108, 108, 75. We can also just search up Chlorophyll and see what's going on here. So faster Pokemon that have access to it, a lot of Pokemon that are just not in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but Victory Bell's always been interesting because like 105, 100. Not really too much of a difference, gonna have the 70 speed, and no one really like tried to force this thing, even though it has stab as well. So Grass Poison, Sludge Bomb, Giga Drain under Chlorophyll on a mixed Pokemon that could also like do some Leaf Bladey stuff, sure, but that never happened. So yeah, like Scovillain, it doesn't do anything. Wugtrio, these things don't do anything. As for some other movesets, so I put Myboss in the first like not really competitive, don't have much to say about it kind of video, but there is something else it can do. You can actually find use in Stakeout with Red Card, which wasn't really a thing on other Stakeout Pokemon because Myboss actually has durability. It can take a hit. So it can take a hit, red card forces, and now that means you're doing double damage on 120 attack. You can lean into that adamant nature and then try to pick up a KO. Unfortunately for bulkier Pokemon, you will have to commit the Terra, but Myboss isn't worth committing a Terra for. Also, red card is going to be a random switch, so unless one Pokemon's already KO'd and you know the red card that's going to be coming in on like ranked Battle Stadium 3v3s, you don't know what you need to do. And yeah, using your Terastallization on Myboss, which does this, maybe gets the KO, and then if it gets outsped again, it can just get KO'd itself. Doesn't really provide a lot of value. Another unfortunate thing is you don't have Sucker Punch? The Mafia Pokemon isn't going to Sucker Punch? And then, like, maybe try to convert something where it's like, okay, Crunch, Stake Out, Red Card, Sucker Punch, KO combo, foolproof, 1+ Pokemon, cool. But it doesn't even do that. I also didn't talk about Destiny Bond, because, like, maybe you just outspeed a tank Pokemon and catch them off guard with this after doing the thing. But that's it. So, a little bit extra that I didn't show on the Myboss, but still nothing to write home about. After that, we have Flamigo. So, Flamigo kind of going back to that thing where I say, like, there's not a lot of inspiring Pokemon or Pokemon that you want to make work for either nostalgia's sake or just being good designs, even though they don't really have too much competitive behind them. Flamigo is one of those. Flamigo is one of the most forgettable, slack-jawed Pokemon out there, and it makes no sense. And because it was just slapped on an ability that's actually really powerful, it's not allowed to be good. On Switchin', Pokemon copies all of its ally stat changes. Well, that's cool because we've seen like a lot of psych up strats for Fan Fridays. This just makes me miss Fan Fridays even more. And battle replays, Game Freak, why? And like you get that on Switchin', which is super powerful. But then that means you can only use this in doubles. So that kind of limits Pokemon, and it doesn't really do anything for singles. And then you have to keep its stats low, because you can't have, like, 2 balance of Pokemon gaining any kind of stats and then running away with it. So, 90 speed, 115 attack. Flying Fighting is interesting. And then that means, like, you can hit a close combat, so if you come in and get a +1, you're kind of strong. That has KO potential, especially if you're, like, under a Tailwind because it's doubles, or you also find a speed boost with that, so come in and copy, like, Dragon Dance level of power, or whatever Salac, Berry, and other boosts you can combo out of in doubles. Yeah, Flamigo's gonna be doing alright with that. So Focus Sash, you trade. Brave Bird on 1 hit points with a Focus Sash, yeah, that's anti-synergy, but if you just need to KO the opposing Pokemon and get a big threat out of the way under a +1 speed with your Flamigo, better to have it than not. Throat Chop, coverage, shuts down certain moves. Protect, absorbs hits while you're kind of sitting there as a threat. So, it kind of exists, but it can really only do one thing. In single battles, like, I guess Bulk Up, and depending on the meta, like 90 speed Bulk Up, you're kind of faster than a lot of things. But if any kind of fast sweeping Pokemon comes in, you get completely destroyed. So, you can maybe try to use the Focus Sash to trade, but it doesn't really do that. You don't have the Sucker Punch. There's other Pokemon out there that can, like, Agility Bulk Up or are faster and can set up, like, Calm Mind and stuff, so kind of wasting a lot of time here. I mean, if you get a free turn on the Bulk Up against tank Pokemon or a Switch, and then Focus Sash their Sweeper into Agility, and you start one-shotting them with close combat, cool. But that's kind of it. And like I said, other Pokemon do it better, or you're just too frail against Sweeper and you never set it up. It kind of wall breaks with the bulking up or Sword Stance, but then there's tons of other Pokemon that do that roughly the same speed, which is better stats and also a better moveset. So Flamigo, pretty worthless, doesn't have a reason to exist. And then Kilowattrel. So I started kind of getting deep in on this Pokemon, where you look at it, it's viable. So I guess like uncompetitive moveset doesn't fully represent this video. Like, this is viable, it's usable, but if you look at the moveset, it's got that electric hindrance, where like a lot of electric type Pokemon, they don't have any coverage. There's no depth here. You can really only run this Pokemon one way, so there's not a lot of volume to a guide. It's, you do this, and then I talk about it for 3 minutes, and the video's over, and you're just kind of left feeling empty. So we can put it in a video with other stuff going on, and it doesn't feel as bad. So, Wind Power. Pokemon gains the charge effect when hit by a wind move or tailwind. So, Electric Flying. Also a really interesting typing that we don't see that often, which is really good. So we only have 2 weaknesses. We pick up an immunity to ground, and then we also have the flying resistance. So some weird world where you switch this Pokemon in on a predictable flying type hit, but it's not like Talonflame is super popular and we need a Talonflame counter or anything. Doubles has some weird interactions, but for the most part you want to guarantee it with your own Tailwind. But you're also super fast, like 125 speed, good speed tier. 105 special attack, not that great, but at least it's two-shotty, so like Focus Sash stuff kind of happens. And then if you get the Wind Power, what you want to do is just kind of the obvious thing. You go Tailwind, you get Wind Power, Charge Effect doubles your damage, so 105 special attack, double damage Thunderbolt, that's gonna be really nice. Like Tailwind, you take the hit, Focus Sash, or just R2 hit KO anyways, and then you do double damage on the Thunderbolt, go for that KO, hopefully it's not too bulky of a Pokemon, and then now you're 1+. So you throw down the Air Slash, maybe like Ground Terra Blast for coverage, because that actually looks really good. Flying Electric, we just kind of plug that in, we can see, oh, we don't do anything to Electric type Pokemon, so let's change that. There we go. I guess Rotom can't do much too. This Pokemon really isn't worth the Terra, but like I say in these moveset guides, if it's just the 1% chance that this actually secures the win, then it's good to have. So yeah, you do your Thunderbolt thing, and then they only have a Pokemon that's susceptible to Ground, Flying, or Electric. Cool, you Terra Ground, hit them with the Terra Blast, they didn't see it coming, that's a KO, and now like you're just hard winning off the Kilowattrel. Okay. But the more realistic situation is Tailwind, Focus Sash, Thunderbolt for the KO off of the Wind Power Charge Effect, Air Slash for some chip damage or 1+, but then there's one turn of Tailwind that you get to make use of. So it's 1+ with one turn of Tailwind. That's not terrible. It's kind of risky compared to like all the other crazy bulk and setup and just like sweeping Pokemon and other things that are possible in the game, but it's usable. However, when you break down the moveset, this is the only thing the Pokemon can do. And it's effectively the same in doubles. And also, at the end of the day, it's just a worse Jolteon that can't take a special hit. Like, Jolteon has some weird matchups to where it survives, like, specs, neutral, special attacks because of this 95 special defense. The 70-60 range, this is like, you just kind of get one shot by everything territory. But the Jolteon has Volt Absorb. Kilowattrel also has that, so unless you're doing, like, Wind Power shenanigans. But then you just have less stats. You have less speed, you have less special attack, and Jolteon isn't super common anyways. So the idea is you go like Terra, Electric, Specs, Jolteon, try to one-shot everything slower than 130 speed, or with this, you try to go for like Tailwind setup, use the charge effect, hope it's enough damage, something, something, something. You can also do the same thing with competitive and doubles because stat drops are very common, so Tailwind, Focus Sash, competitive, +2, and now it's like you're permanently charged because you would just have double special attack on all your moves. Maybe you get the Air Slash flinch. That's kind of it. So very simple Pokemon, not terrible, not completely unusable, but not enough substance here for like its own standalone thing. So hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.